everyone. This is Thoughtful Thursdays by Tornado IP Consulting, where innovation meets strategy and IP. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Fun Lee, an R&D, AI, and digital consultant with over 16 years of experience working at the intersection of science and technology. And I'm very excited for the conversation today, which is around AI and R&D innovation, from experimentation to real impact. Fun has led enterprise AI and data initiatives at companies like DuPont and IFF, helping transform how R&D teams use data, AI, and their digital tools to accelerate innovation. His work focuses on bridging the gap between lab scientists and IT, turning complex technologies into practical solutions that drive real impact. And so welcome, Fan. And I have several questions for you and really looking forward to your perspective. Many organizations are experimenting with AI in R&D, but few are scaling it. What separates successful AI implementation, in your opinion, from failed pilots?
Sylvia, first, let me just say thank you for having me here. And that was a great intro. So back to your question, I totally agree that, these days we see a lot of momentum in terms of different R&D organizations trying to accelerate their AI adoption. And there's a clear difference where I see that how it worked in some organizations and not work so well in other organizations. Now, in terms of the big difference, it's hard to pinpoint to one single point to say, oh, that is the deciding factor that's going to decide whether succeed or fail. But there are several things I think could be very relevant. One is you really want to have the buy-in from the practitioner. That involves, the lab scientists, the frontline workers, who is really believed in the power of AI and actively seeking the use of AI to accelerate their work to improve their productivity. And that's very important. The second part is, of course, the leadership sponsorship, where the leader has to set an example to start using the AI to actually show their people, to show their report, to show their members, their staff that using AI can truly make a difference. Yeah, I think those are some of the most important things I see could be very important.
So this is really interesting. It kind of ties to my second question, which is additional bottlenecks that you see where companies are trying to introduce AI and R&D. Do you see any additional bottlenecks in data, culture, infrastructure, or something else? And where do most companies underestimate the challenge?
Certainly. So as you mentioned earlier, I've been in this trade for over 15, 16 years so far. I can say one consistent theme is the data availability. In R&D space, that is always critical in terms of how do we get the good quality data that can support model development, can support AI development. And that is definitely still the case with today's generative AI, agentic AI development.
Interesting, because this kind of resonates on the previous two conversations I had with professionals in regulatory space and information technology space. They all really highlighted the quality of data as a concern. You have spent your career bridging scientists and IT teams. Where do you see these two groups typically misunderstanding each other when it comes to AI?
That's a very good question. So I wouldn't say they may be misunderstood, but I'd say, sometimes there is a gap in the communication that may end up taking more effort than we hope. And that is something, again, I try to address. Typically, scientists, as you know, are always very curious about new technology, new possibilities, whereas the standard conventional IT organization are more on the conservative side, where they have to ensure security, stability, and so on and so forth. So really, a lot of time is trying to bridge that gap between how fast can we go, how fast do the scientists want to move forward versus the practicality of having the right IT system, policy, process in place, make it happen to sustain it. A lot of times my role is to help in trying to communicate that and be able to ensure everybody is on the same ground and to pick the right technology to best support the use case, the ideas, the invention, the new innovations the scientists are pursuing.
You've worked on systems that unify siloed scientific information. Certainly in mid-size or bigger companies, you see information in functional silos. Is AI changing the way organizations access and use this type of institutional knowledge?
Absolutely. That is a huge difference today with today's generative AI, agentic AI technology. For years or decades, we have been seeing that, in R&D, there are always, decades or even hundreds of years of experiences, knowledge about a certain product, technology that we want to tap into. But it just takes so much effort because the information is locked in silos, locked in, paper-based notebook. It's in some obscure data files that sit on somebody's personal drive. AI has really made the information much more accessible. As you can probably see that, today, if you're using ChatGPT, you have the entire knowledge of a human history essentially on your fingertip. And that is the same idea. When we're trying to impose, layer up the generative AI solutions and platform, we can immediately make the R&D knowledge within an organization, within an enterprise, much more accessible. Of course, we still have to tie it back to my earlier point regarding data quality, because just having the information accessible does not necessarily mean the information will be usable. So still having high quality information data is very important.
On this end, I noticed that whenever they're deploying driverless cars, they have had success in several cities. And you would think, okay, great, this is working in San Francisco, this is working in Portland. We can just take the same algorithm, the same cars, and stick them in Philadelphia. Off we go. This doesn't seem to be the case. It seems that every time we move those cars into a new city, you actually need humans to train and teach, so it's not, like it's different from a human being. If you taught me how to drive in one city, you can put me in another city I can drive, at least certainly in the United States, maybe in Europe as well. So this is very interesting to me. So I wonder, do you think the same type of thing has to happen when it comes to like notebooks or research data? You can't just deploy AI on top and clean it up right away. You need the human component to avoid misinformation and hallucination. Do you agree with that?
Yes, 100%. So, as you know, there are no two R&D organizations are the same, or you can say there's no two R&D projects are the same. And that really highlight the importance of having the process, the technology, the expertise in place to help adapt AI technology to the specific need within the organization or within a project. And to your point, what the self-driving technology trend in San Francisco is not necessarily translate to Philadelphia. Same idea, the same AI platform that is built on larger chemical enterprise does not necessarily translate directly to small and mid-sized chemical companies. So that is definitely the case. I think we have to be aware of, and people have to prepare. Another thing is to translate from success that at the proof of concept level to a production level. So that is also a gap that we want to make sure the practitioners are aware, because as soon as you go beyond the proof of concept, you are going to deal with a lot of edge cases, practical constraints, and so on and so forth. You have to be aware and have to be prepared to address them down the road.
Yeah, so the human brain is still not completely replaced. And if you think that it's providing accurate data without the checking and without the training, you can be very much misled. So another area that we're touching in my previous conversations with various different experts in manufacturing and industry is the confidentiality of the data. And do you feel comfortable that when you're deploying AI system in an organization, it can be deployed in a way that really properly keeps it from outside access?
That's a great point. I think that's indeed a very serious concern with today's ubiquitous nature of different AI tools that get used by people both at work and also in their personal life. That is where when you share information, when you share knowledge with these AI tools, the people may not necessarily realize where the information might end. and how the data might be reused down the road, such as reuse for model training or incorporated into a shared knowledge system. And I can agree with you that that is the concern from the enterprise perspective about IP protection, about trade secret know-how, so on and so forth. And I would like to hear your opinion on that for as an expert in this field.
Well, yeah, so it's interesting because I feel like it's one of those places where I would need to talk to you, tell you my concern, and ask you to help me feel better about it. But right now, from my research, what I'm seeing is that it's not so easy to completely separate out certain pieces of information that you're putting into AI. And I would be concerned about putting trade secret information, highly sensitive, highly valuable information, even into an AI tool that was designed to be firewalled from the outside world for a company. That is my current impression. And, I'm very much fighting, the impression that we must lock down a segment of a market and cannot put any information into AI and they must exist without AI, because I do think that will hold people back. I do think that there has to be a middle ground where certain pieces of information are absolutely going into AI and leveraged, because otherwise companies are going to be held behind. My feeling is that you need to have a strategy. You really, in a business segment, look at what are the pieces of information that truly create value, that are truly confidential and trade secret, that if other people, other companies knew would hurt financially, and have a strategy around what those key pieces are and not put them into AI. That would be my current, impression and recommendation. And happy to hear your thoughts also.
Absolutely, absolutely. I recall in the early days when ChatGPT was launched, you know, many organizations went into panic mode and they start blocking ChatGPT. I think today some organizations still do. I agree with you that that is not the right approach for just cutting people off from AI because of the huge potential that AI can bring to your staff to your organization. And we really needed to have a holistic approach to help address some of the IP, trade secret, knowledge sharing concerns. On the technology side, we start to see some of the solutions out there to help enterprise, to help organizations prevent uh, accidental information leak when their employees using third-party AI tools. But technology is not enough to address all the issues here. We definitely also need to have the proper training, awareness, and policy, as well as other components in place. I don't know what the right solution is going to be because the space evolves so fast. But I agree that that is definitely a strong need for that, for enterprise to properly use AI, but also without sacrificing their
I think that a best practice that I've seen adopted in DuPont is a trade secret protection platform, which meant each business key market segment would have a subject matter experts that would define those key trade secrets that the business need to hold really secret, kind of like the Coca-Cola formulation type pieces of information. And even before AI, pieces of information like that would be held very, very closely. Only very few people would know about it, and it would be tightly controlled in some secured SharePoint type situation. And I think this deployment of AI highlights how important systems like that are. And this is a platform that Tornado IP, my company, can help deploy. And also, as I'm seeing AI, the training need for AI, as we discussed for the driverless cars, proper deployment of AI of whatever system you're working over in a company, does need a little bit of training, a little bit of checking. So actually, it makes perfect sense to tie in a trade secret protection strategy to deployment. And so identify what are the pieces of information we're just not going to share and lock it up, and only very few people will know it and have awareness of it. That would be, I think, a good best practice. But tied to this, Fan, question for you, since you have such experience working with different companies, in your opinion, what does a good AI strategy for R&D look like today?
my short answer is I don't know yet because this is mostly because the technology evolves so fast uh, in a way that what we consider best practice today might not really applicable tomorrow. But I can say that one thing I definitely, whenever I talk with the different organizations, talk to clients, is I want to make sure that they really empower their staff with AI. Do not hold your staff back. Do not block access to AI. And let's try to put the proper guardrail, the proper mechanism, the proper technology around it. But it will not be the right solution to hold people back. Again, in today's AI age, I think that's really a loss for the company.
I agree. I agree. So, a few quick questions which might revisit some of the things we talked about. What's the biggest mistake companies make, in your opinion, when implementing AI and R&D?
Terms of mistakes, I think okay. So one mistake for me is to see companies to be too conservative or take too much deliberation before they start trying AI. I think that's probably not the right way to go, given that uh, again the technology works so fast, and you want to get on the board to start benefit from it as soon as possible. So I would encourage companies to really, even if you just want to start with something small, start with a proof of concept or start with a particular pilot project. No matter what, let's start something. Let's start using it and get a good feeling of how it works and how it can benefit the organization. And don't overthink it. And that'll be my suggestion.
Sounds good. What is your thought on building an internal AI tool or buy an external platform? What's your default recommendation?
There's no default recommendation here. I guess broadly speaking, the buy versus build debate has been in IT for decades. In this case, it's really depending on the specific use case you have, the technology depth. For example, do you have the right competency within the organization that can build and sustain an in-house solution versus can you buy the right solution off the shelf, whether there's a good vendor that you can collaborate and partner with. So part of my service has been in this space of helping different organizations evaluate their needs and to help them run proper evaluation of the external solution so they can help find the best match.
Sounds good. What is your thought? Is it for success for AI deployment? Is it important to have better data or better people?
In this case, I always say both. You definitely need to have better data to begin with, but also you need to have the smart people to make best use of your data.
Is generative AI overhyped, underhyped, or properly valued in R&D?
I don't think that is overhyped. Again, its potential is just there's so much potential in the technology. I think today we're still just barely scratch the surface in terms of where this can be used. And I do encourage R&D leaders, scientists, and other stakeholders to start using the generative AI technology, embrace it, and I think there's a lot of value still to be discovered.
What do you think R&D will look like in 5 years with AI deployment?
Wow, that's really hard question to answer. Again, given the how fast the AI technology has evolved, I definitely see, there is a possibility for us to be a lot more productive in terms of uh, generating new hypotheses, generating new ideas, more quickly execute R&D projects through automation, through agentic system, so on and so forth. You never know. Maybe in 5 years, the way we run R&D will be very different. And again, that is really uh, dictated by how fast technology advances.
But it sounds like your take is the more a company is willing to adapt, the better they're going to be, the better off they will be in 5 years.
I strongly encourage R&D organizations to embrace AI. Again, uh, there's so much potential still to be discovered. Of course, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit you can harvest on the road, but then I think the bigger reward will be down the road, where the organization can really use AI to transform how you operate, how you run R&D projects.
Thank you, Fan. That was a great conversation. And thanks for joining us for Thoughtful Thursdays on Tornado IP.
Thank you.